Thanks, everyone. I'm David Wale. I'm the Director of Product Management at TerAgo Networks. So we're going to switch it up a bit here. We're not going to be talking about machining. We're talking about 5G millimeter wave networks. First of all, I want to thank McMaster for having us here today, and it's been a real treat over the past 8 months watching Dr. Veldhuis and team put this facility together and getting it operational. So first thing here, let me get this working. Who is TerAgo Networks? So TerAgo is a Canadian wireless network provider. We have a national network across the country. We have facilities in 5 provinces. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Forward, this way? Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you. We have a national network. We have facilities in 5 provinces across the country. Over 1,800 customers and over 5,000 customer locations that we service. We provide internet services, wide area networks, and private networks for Canadian businesses. That's probably why no one's heard of us. We don't supply consumer services. We're all about business. Additionally, we are the largest holder of millimeter wave spectrum in Canada. We hold more than 90% of the millimeter wave licenses in Canada. And millimeter wave meaning 24 gigahertz and 38 gigahertz spectrum, okay? And we've been in business now for 24 years, since 1999. Secondly, last year we formed a partnership with McMaster University and to supply and start testing out 5G millimeter wave networks in a variety of different verticals and different applications. Specifically, we're focused on advanced manufacturing, healthcare and logistics, but I suspect that may extend over the 3-year term into other applications. Our initial phase of it here is actually in the MMRI. We've deployed a 5G millimeter wave private network here for researching advanced manufacturing use cases. It's great for McMaster. I call this the best sandbox we can possibly put out in the world, because it gives McMaster the opportunity to research and develop new technologies, new applications, and leverage 5G networks. But it also gives TerAgo the opportunity to start testing, configuring, and deploying networks into manufacturing environments, which is a huge advantage because most telecommunication companies never get this opportunity to work in this field. A couple of things we touched on. I talked about private networks. So when we talk about private networks, we're actually talking about dedicated networks. And this is important when we talk with telecommunications companies. Most telecommunications companies, when you're talking about a private network, they're talking about releasing a component of their network to a specific facility or to a specific customer, but the network is actually deployed for all customers. We're talking about specific private networks. They would be deployed for a specific site or a specific customer. So there are 2 ways of thinking about it. We have either dedicated networks, where we fully dedicate and deploy a network onto a customer site, or what we call hybrid type networks, where we deploy partially, most of the network gets put onto the customer site, but the administrative components of it would be centralized. So if you think about maybe a network where a company that had, say, 15 or 20 warehouses across southwestern Ontario, we would deploy networks into each one of their warehouses, but we would actually centralize the administrative aspects of it. The important thing is that it would be dedicated and be privately set up specifically for that customer. So it would not be touching anybody else's network. No one else would have access to it. All the data would be confined to the specific network, and it would interoperate with the operational technology or the back-end systems at the specific customer sites. And finally, the last point on this is it's one thing we truly believe. Everything when we talk 5G, everything we're talking about will be application driven. I don't think that anybody will ever buy a 5G network from me just because they want a 5G network. There'll always be a specific purpose for it. There'll be a specific application or a specific set of functions that they're trying to achieve, and use the network to achieve those. The second thing to talk about is millimeter wave. So one of the things you need to understand about 5G, 5G can interoperate in a wide variety of spectrum. That's one of the key strengths of it. 5G is separated into a number of different bandwidths. They're what we call the low bandwidth sections. That's traditionally what your LTE devices, your phones operate on. We have mid-band, that's the 2 to 6 gigahertz range, and that's what most of the carriers are deploying their current 5G systems in. And then the third band, the high band, is what we operate in, which is what we call the millimeter wave. That's 24 gigahertz and above. Yep. So the real advantage of 5G millimeter waves, most of the things we ascribe to 5G are actually for 5G millimeter wave networks. So things like autonomous vehicles and what have you. 5G millimeter waves are high performance networks. They have high bandwidths, up to 10 gigabits per second, possibly up to 20 gigabits per second. We'll see in the future where we actually, the limit stops on. More importantly, ultra low latency, below 10 milliseconds. So today the LTE networks are about 4 to 5 times, in some cases 10 times higher than that in terms of the latency. Potentially we may get down to the point where we get to 1 or 2 milliseconds worth of latency on it. And then these types of networks can also support very high device densities. So I mean, what they've listed as like 1 million devices per square kilometer, I don't know if we'll ever achieve that or if we'll ever get to test it, but that's about 1,000 times higher than what we can currently do on any wireless network we have today. So that really means that any applications that require a wireless network, the flexibility and mobility of a wireless network, but need the high speed, need the low latency, or the dense device density that can be provided by 5G, we'll be able to leverage these types of networks. And so these are the types of applications that people are working on right now that will leverage these types of networks. Things in automation, augmented reality, vision systems, massive industrial IoT, and autonomous vehicles. Okay, thank you.